Welcome to the Kingdom Alliance podcast, where we share stories that matter. At Kingdom Alliance, we are on a mission to ignite a movement of impact and freedom through mentorship and the development of leaders across the globe. You're invited to listen in as we share stories from men and women around the world who are having a massive impact on the kingdom. Here at Kingdom Alliance, we believe that when you change yourself, you change the world.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Alliance podcast. I'm your host, Molly Trotter-Gomez. I am so very excited to introduce you to my friend, Jennifer. I met Jennifer at a birthday dinner for a mutual friend, and the stand that this woman is taking in the educational system, running for a school board seat in California. And for those that live in California, you know the things that happen here. For those that hear about California, you guys all think we're just going to fall off in the ocean and start over. Well, God is not done with California. And there's so many people like Jennifer taking such a strong stand. And I'm very excited for you to just hear from her today about just the bold dream and vision that God's put in her heart to take back the schools, take back the classroom and the freedom that kids can have to learn freely without the government putting their hands all in it, and just really being able to just uplift the education system. So Jennifer, I am very, very excited that you're here with us today. Please share a little bit more about yourself, and we'll dive right on into this bold vision that the Lord gave you.
Oh my goodness, Molly, it's so exciting to be with you again. I'm so honored to be here. Wow, what a time we live in, right? It's crazy. Right. So my name's Jennifer Adnams. I am a teacher and a mom and a wife and a concerned citizen, and I'm a Jesus lover, kingdom first person. And I am running for school board in Capistrano Unified Area 1, which covers Dana Point, Capo Beach, little parts of San Juan Capistrano, and a little bit of San Clemente. So down here in the South County, we've got a school board that desperately needs to be flipped. And there are 4 of us candidates. One is an incumbent that's trying to hold on to her seat. And there's 3 of us that want to flip those other seats and bring some sanity back to the schools.
Yes. I mean, we are definitely praying for you to be able to make that happen, because we're in desperate need of just new leadership in so many different areas, but especially the schools, because I've seen more mamas and people mad that, it's just not like they want to pull their kids out of school. They want to do something else. And so before we dive into all that, because I know there's so many different directions we can take to just talk about what God has kind of given to you as a vision to get in there and fix the problem. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you even came to wanting to be running for a position like this.
Yeah, so I've been in education for over 30 years. I started my teaching career back in the 90s in Capo Unified. I taught 2nd grade at Moulton Elementary School down here. And then I stayed home when my kids were born. And then through their childhood, I was very involved in educating them, worked at their private schools, even had a homeschooling season with my kids. And now I currently work for a public charter school that services homeschooling families. So I've really seen education in all the different facets. I've seen it in public, I've seen it in private, and in homeschooling. I'm super familiar with the California standards, because in my job now, that's how I help families, is just come alongside them and help them on their educational journey. And my husband is also a teacher in Capo Unified. He's a middle school math teacher. He's been there for almost 30 years.
Wow.
He's just highly respected at his school. And so how did we get here? So we've obviously been in education, seen all the stuff that's been going on, especially in California. And there was a point, I would say, in 2020, and isn't this kind of how it is for all of us? 2020 shifted everything. And we just, we saw the infiltration of these dark agendas coming in, but there was something that just was so revealed in 2020. And it just feels like it's ramping up. And the reality is that the enemy is coming after our kids. And he's actually not even hiding himself anymore. And And it's infiltrating the schools. It's been infiltrating the schools for decades, but now it's just at this peak. And so my husband and I just started like, wow, like, what do we do about this? We got in contact with a current board member, Lisa Davis, who's an amazing warrior. She's pretty much been fighting the battle single-handedly, and she needs help. Came alongside her on a couple board meetings. She tried to pass a parental notification policy, which sounds as simple. It was as simple as parents get to be notified about anything going on with their kids at school. And it got defeated 5-2. And in that moment, I was watching what was going on. There were activist groups that had stacked the deck against the policy, showing up, speaking. And I said, Lord, she needs help. And I felt the Lord say, yeah, how about you? And that was the moment, that moment when he says that and you're like, oh, I was kind of kidding, but started praying, and he's not kidding, right? So he just kept pressing, and we prayed, and we really did have to pray and seek the Lord, because when you go after a position like school board, there's a battle for that, and it's not for the faint of heart by any means. There are enemies out there that do not want to see me in that seat. So we prayed. We felt like, this is it. He's calling me for such a time as this. So when the Lord asks you to do something, you can't say no, right? So now we're just excited. We're seeing momentum. We've got people behind us. It's amazing. When the Lord calls you to something, he provides for it, and he's given us resources and people. And it's actually been amazing and super fun. We are getting to where it's going to get intense, and it's ramping up for sure.
Wow. I mean, it's so powerful of like, Lord, she needs help. And he's like, yeah, how about you? And you're just like, wait, can it be somebody else? And he's always going to call, like, if you have that, like, well, wait a second. It's like, exactly. I'm stirring this up in you because there's something that I'm going to have you do about it. Have you do something about it. So I love that you shared that and you just jumped right on in. And, when it comes to schools, we were talking earlier, and, there's a lot of people that are saying, pull your kids out of school, homeschool. Like the homeschool movement has become massive. But before we pressed record, we were talking about how we need to, if we keep pulling everybody out, then there's going to be nobody left to help fix the system. I'd love for you to pour into that, because I'm sure there's people listening to this that are like, yes, I either want to pull my kids out, I've already done so. But speak to that of how we can all have our voices be heard and make a difference no matter what school district we're in.
Yeah. So for those that are not aware, I can't remember even what day it was, a couple of days ago, Governor Newsom signed into law. It's a law that's on the Ed Code for California. And it basically says that it bans teachers from, I want to get the wording right. So it basically, if a student comes to a teacher and shares that they're having gender dysphoria, that teacher is now by law not allowed to tell the parent unless the child lets them. And so we're talking about 5-year-olds to 17-year-olds, right? And some might say, well, if this child is afraid or whatever, maybe a teacher is a safe place to do that. But the problem is you cannot just single-handedly remove parents from these conversations. Gender dysphoria comes with it major higher suicide rates, major anxiety, depression. It's a huge challenge. And the people that love this child the most need to be part of the conversation, not to mention that constitutionally they have that right. So it's a sweeping rule that just says, hey, parents can be kicked out of this conversation and the teachers will handle it, and the teachers can keep the child safe. But what we're finding is it's actually not that. And there is an agenda to get these kids into transitioning their gender as children. And there are medical facilities and there's all kinds of stuff happening. So it's actually really scary. So he signed the bill. It's part of the law now. So there's a law now that keeps parents out of the conversation. Okay. So my first thought when he signed it was like, wow. And, I'm watching the social media reaction, And these are people that have been fighting and have been electing board members and all this stuff. And the sense was like, everybody get out, like pull your kids out now, we'll find you resources for educating your schools. And I was like, wow, the problem with that is they're not going to stop coming after your kids. They're going to come after the private schools. They're going to come after your ability to homeschool. So and even like, oh, let's just move to Tennessee or let's move to Texas or whatever. They will not stop. So what would it look like for California citizens, parents to stand up to them and say, we're not going to stand for this. We're not fleeing. We're not pulling our kids out. This is our school system. We are the taxpayers. This school system belongs to us, not you. Okay. We're the people. It's for the people, by the people, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of pulling out your kids and fleeing, because they're going to come after you anyway, let's fight. And the way to do that, the grassroots way to do that right now is to elect people like me and my team, the other 3 candidates that are running, to be in these school board, these local positions and say, we're going to stop. We're going to stand in the way. However that looks, we're going to stand in the way of someone getting between you and your child. And that's what we have to do in this moment.
Amen. I mean, it's when California starts something, other states start to follow. So whether you live in California or not, like people are like, oh, if it's working over there, that will not work. It will only damage. Like there is nothing good that will come from that. And so I love that you're just like, no, we need to do something. And all of us have something that we can do. Our voices need to be heard. Your voice matters. Your vote matters no matter where you live. Like it always matters. And maybe this isn't a big deal to where you live in your school district yet, but chances are there are things starting to happen, or maybe you're just seeing little instances, but it's only going to grow because the enemy's he's just out in the open. He's just like, here you go. You guys are accepting it. And there was a phrase that I shared recently that the Lord really just put on my heart that, we see how dark it is out there. But the only reason it's so dark is because people stopped shining their light. They stopped speaking. They stopped sharing. They stopped standing up. And so darkness goes away when light is on blast. And so we just need to have more lights. And it starts with 1. 1 turns into 2. 2 can turn into 20, so on and so forth. Multiplication at its finest. But it's being able to, maybe you're the only one. People will follow when they see that you are brave and you're standing up, just like what you're doing, Jennifer. Not everybody's going to have the calling to run for a school board position, but they do have something that they have a voice and they can do something right now. Or maybe there's somewhere else in their life that God is calling them to be bold. And it may seem really big. Like, I'm sure you might have had this thought, okay, Lord, well, yes, I want to be able to help, but like, what can I do? It's not just you. It starts with you, but it's so much bigger than that. And so I'd love for you to share just even those kinds of thoughts if you had it and how you overcame them, because those thoughts tend to creep in, and some people give that more airtime rather than the voice of the Lord but I've called you to this and I'm never going to leave you. So I'd love to know if that happened for you during this process so far.
Yeah. And we kind of talked about this in another conversation. When the Lord calls you to something, he equips you for it, right? And he's the one that's actually doing it. But we individually, it's like we only see with our eyes. We see what we're capable of. We see, well, I've never run for anything. I don't have connections, but when the Lord puts you in a position, he opens doors for you. He brings people in. I mean, the minute that my husband and I decided, the Lord is saying yes to this, bam, I was just ushered into rooms with people that are already working on it. I had no idea. There are already people that are strategizing, raising funds, actively pursuing this to flip these school boards to bring sanity. I didn't know that. And so I want to share that when the Lord is calling you to something, don't get sidetracked by your own vision. Don't get sidetracked by what you see or don't see, because the Lord knows what he's calling you into. And he knows way more than we do. There were groups of people that I'd never even heard of, that I didn't know about. And now these are like the engine that are getting this thing done behind us. I had no idea they existed. I just had to say yes to the Lord.
I love that. It's Don't get caught up by your own vision. That is good. That is a word right there. That is good. I'm just very excited for what the Lord's going to do in and through you. And we're definitely going to be praying over you. And for anybody listening to this, if you know people that are in government trying to do the right thing, like, let's encourage them. Let's help them. Let's support them. And maybe you live in another state, but you love what Jennifer is standing for. I know that she's still taking donations because it's a big uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. And there's people out there that are like, where can I put my resources so it can do good? And this is definitely one of those places. And there's a lot of people out there doing good. But guess what? The media is not going to give them airtime. They only want to show the bad. Why? Because it instills fear, and then everybody just goes downhill. So from somebody who used to be a news anchor and reporter, like perpetuating that, and then the light bulb went off of like, I'm out of here. I'm done doing that. Turn off the news and go find the people that are doing good things, because they are everywhere. We just have to maybe dig a little bit, but it's going to be worth it. So Jennifer, this has been impactful at like just what you're doing, what you're standing for, giving courage and hope to other people to step into what God's calling them to do, whatever that may be. So before we wrap up today, is there anything else you'd love to share, or maybe even an encouraging word to our listeners today?
Yeah, just to touch on what you said about donating and getting involved. Here's another reality with especially with school board races. So there is an entity, it's the teachers union. Some people are like, teachers union, they just fight for teachers. That's not the case. They're the largest lobbying entity in California. I think that's the right statistic. Don't quote me on that, but they're a very powerful lobbying entity. And they do not want me in the seat. So as soon as they know, which they do, I'm sure now, as soon as they know that I'm in the race against their candidate, they're going to dump endless amounts of money. These people have endless amounts of money. They are not this small little thing that helps teachers. They have billions of dollars. So the money for her campaign is not an issue. Money for my campaign is a bigger issue. I don't have that entity dumping money into my account. So if there's anything that I've said, if there's anything, maybe ask the Lord, is this something you'd want me to give to? I need the donations. I'm battling this other candidate that has endless amounts. So donating would be amazing. And then, yeah, if you know anybody that lives in Capistrano Unified that you want to hear this story, for them to know, hey, there's actually people that are running for these seats that want to stand in the way of these policies for you. Go check them out. Go get involved. Sign up to volunteer. We're going to do meet and greet gatherings in all of our neighborhoods, just so they can meet me and hear the message. I would love everybody to sign up and do that. And I think you'll have the links for all of that.
Absolutely. And Capital Unified, just to, you mentioned it before, it's Southern Orange County in California. So Southern Orange County in Southern California, that's what she's referring to. And so whether you live in that area or not, we can all be praying. We can all contribute. We can all just keep petitioning for a move of God in all the school districts, because it's time for us to band together. The darkness is showing its hand and it has resources, but so does the kingdom. We are heirs of the king. We have resources too. And those people are out there, and you never know, you might be connected to one, and they are just waiting to find that thing. They're like, that's it. That's what I want to be a part of. So Jennifer, we bless you. We thank you for taking that bold stand for the children in your school district, for the parents, just fighting for them, their voices, for giving us just a bold message of courage today to just step out, even when you're like, me, Lord. He tends to do that all the time. He loves doing that. And we just honor you for the stand that you're taking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.